Good morning. So today we're going to have our last two lessons on our dinosaurs. We're going to learn about herbivores and carnivores. So that's the two different types. Well, there's three. So there's herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. Omnivores eat plants and animals. And herbivores only eat plants. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So can you say herbivore? Herbivore. So they're herbivores. So that's a type of dinosaur, and they mostly eat plants. And during the time of the dinosaurs, most of the dinosaurs were plant-eating dinosaurs. And they're broken down into two groups. One group is, let me see if I can say this right, is an ornithischian dinosaur, and they'd eat plants close to the ground like a stegosaurus. So they would eat plants close to the ground like the leaves that have fallen off the trees and the grass. And then we'd have sauropods that would eat the plants high up in the trees like a diplodocus. So see how they have their long necks? That would help them eat high up in the trees, the leaves high up in the top of the trees. And it says they have flat teeth that helped them strip the vegetation off trees, and they would have to eat many plants daily. Think about us compared to dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are big. We're way smaller than a dinosaur. They would have to eat a lot of plants to stay full throughout the day. And it says most of them traveled in packs. That means they never were one by themselves. They would always be with others in a pack. And the bones of plant-eating dinosaurs have been found all over the world. And an interesting fact about them is they would eat stones or rocks to help digest the plants in their bellies. So let's talk about some different types of herbivores. So my first one is called a a diplodocus. Here's my diplodocus. They are one of the biggest dinosaurs, but the gentlest. So remember, gentle means, would they be nice or would they not be so nice? They'd be very nice. They're very gentle. It was the size of the house and had a tiny head on the top of a long neck. And the main food was leaves and twigs, and it spent all its time eating to feed its enormous body. So look at it here. Look how big it is compared to a person. So that's a big dinosaur. And here's a different picture of it. So it had a long neck and a long tail. So a diplodocus. That's our first herbivore. Our second herbivore, I don't have a picture of this one or one of these guys. An Ouranosaurus was a big plant-eating dinosaur. It had a wide mouth. It helped it to eat plants from the ground. It had a brightly colored sail on its back, and it used this for signaling to other dinosaurs. That's called an Ouranosaurus. And again, look how big it is compared to a person. Next, we have the Stegosaurus, which I know we've talked about. A Stegosaurus had bony plates along its back. Remember, it's spiky plates. It also had spikes at the end of its tail that used it to fight off its enemy. Remember, we talked about how they fight off the T-Rex with the spikes on its tail? And it had a small head and a teeny tiny brain the size of a walnut. That's a tiny brain. And its jaws had small teeth for chewing up plants. So there's our Stegosaurus. And here he is again. It says, you would not have been able to reach up to the shoulder of a Stegosaurus. So here's our Stegosaurus. Let me see him. Here's another picture of a Stegosaurus. So it has small head, spikes on back, and spikes on tail. There's our Stegosaurus. Let me see if I have anything else about a Stegosaurus. It is, yep, that's pretty much it. Talks about its little brain. Stegosaurus. Remember, it's plates on its back. That's an easy one to identify. Next we have, which I think is another favorite, is the Triceratops. The Triceratops has 3 horns on its head, and it made it look very fierce, kind of almost like a rhino, right? Because a rhino has a horn on its head. It was a plant eater and used its horns to fight off meat eaters like the T-Rex. It was one of the last dinosaurs. So it was one of the last living dinosaurs. And it says all dinosaurs are extinct now. So there's our Triceratops. And look how big he is compared to a person. And here he is here. And it says, and it kind of has like a shield there. It says it used its horns to crush food. And it says they charged like a rhino when they were threatened. Because have you ever seen a rhino kind of rush after something? That's kind of like the Triceratops. Maybe they were related somewhere in the way, way past. So those were my herbivores in that book. Now let's go to these guys here, because I have a couple other, there's a bunch. So let's see if I can pronounce this one. This is called an Ankylosaurus rex. It was as large as a tank and nearly as hard to attack. Even though they were very slow moving and their tail clubs were not much defense against a T-Rex, their extremely tough armor foiled the 8-inch long teeth of the king of dinosaurs. Remember, this is like their armor on their back. And it roamed around the North America where we live and ate plants with its little leaf-shaped teeth. It had very few shaped teeth compared to other animals. So that is an Ankylosaurus, another herbivore. All right, let's see what else we have. This is called the Apatosaurus. You might know it as a Bronchiosaurus. They were one of the largest animals who have walked on the earth. They used to be called a Brontosaurus, but is referred to as Apatosaurus today. And its nostrils were located on the top of its head. So here are our nostrils. Theirs were on top of their head. And so they would be the ones that eat off the tops of trees because of its long, long neck. And it said it swallowed stones and it did not chew its food. So here's one there. Let's see, I have 3 more. Okay, here's the hard one. Parasaurolophus. It had a hollowy, bony crest on top of its head, and it was in the shape of a helmet and flattened on the sides. So if you can see there, this duck-billed dinosaur was considered a relatively fast dinosaur, being that it walked on 2 hind legs. So that's another herbivore, Parasaurolophus. That one's a hard one. And we did oh, here, I'll show you a picture of it. Here he is there. And I have 2 more, let's see. Or I have 1 more. Okay, here's another really hard one. Here he is. Can't really see. Pachycephalosaurus. That one was hard. I'm not gonna repeat that. It's famous for having a large bony head, and it would use its head almost to like run into other animals as its protection. So it would kind of run into them like that and use its head as his armor, as his protection. So that, and it says the size is compared to a baby giraffe. So that's in there. So see his top of his head, that would be his head to protect him when fighting other dinosaurs. So remember, an herbivore is a plant eater. They only eat plants. All right? So I think that's all I had for today. So here were a couple of our herbivores. And next we'll talk about the fierce carnivores like the T-Rex.